So let's get started. Good evening, dear AIPA members and our valuable guests. Welcome to our 25th Tomorrow meeting. My name is Hilal Numanoğlu. I'm a member of AIPA Supervisory Board, and I will be gladly moderating today's session. This evening, we have a distinguished guest speaker from Croatia, Mr. Aco Momčilović. He will give us a speech on what are the risks of lagging behind in AI on the country level, small countries and big sectors, applications and opportunities. It sounds quite interesting, but before we start, we would like to share the promotional video of AIPA Turkey. Now let's watch it together. Pınar'cığım. Thank you. And now I would like to give the floor to the president of AIPA, Mr. Zafer Küçükşabanoğlu, to make the opening speech of our event. Dear Zafer, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Hilal. Good evening, everyone, our dear AIPA family and guests. Welcome to our events. As an association, in the last 50 months since our establishment, we increased the number of our members from 11 to 100. The number of qualified members will continue to increase day by day. We had 24 tomorrow meetings to increase our knowledge on artificial intelligence, and today we are holding the 25th. We will increase this number to 50 by the end of the year. We have synced for cooperation protocols so far to take steps in artificial intelligence. By the end of the year, we will sync protocols with 2 more important institutions in Turkey. We have participated in 20 national and international events as speakers, especially at the universities. In the past months, we attended one of the biggest fairs in the world, Dubai GITEX and Las Vegas CS, and occurred various contexts. Our trips abroad for AI will continue. We conducted and shared our research on perception of artificial intelligence in society and perception of artificial intelligence in businesses. which are the most comprehensive studies in the field of artificial intelligence in Turkey so far. We will announce our third research perception of metaverse in society in 2 weeks. By participation in more than 50 TV and radio programs so far, we have shared the views of our associations with the public. Finally, Mr. Atso, we broke the participate record among online summits in Turkey by organizing the AI Tomorrow Summit, which was an international summit in which you also participate. Yes, we did this with our friends just in 15 months. We have just begun. Mr. Atso, if you allow me, I would like to give a brief information about the artificial intelligence potential in Turkey. In the past months, our state has taken a big step by announcing the National Artificial Intelligence Strategy documents. Now with these documents, the Republic of Turkey has clear goals in artificial intelligence. We have the potential to achieve these goals. I will send the strategy documents to you as soon as possible. Turkey is a big and powerful country. We have a population of 85 million. The average age of our country is 33. At the same time, there are 26 Gen Z in our country. Just the Gen Z population living in our country is more than population 143 countries in the world. Young people in our country have a great interest in technology. If we can transform this interest into more knowledge, I believe that we will be one of the few countries in artificial intelligence. As I end my words here, I would like to thank my close friend Hilal, who made this event possible, and our valuable guest, Mr. Atso, and I look forward to your speech with great excitement. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Zafer. And dear participants, now I would like to briefly introduce our dear speaker to all of you. Atso has a very impressive CV. I don't know how to summarize it, but he holds a BA in psychology from University of Zagreb. Then he went on executive MBA in Kotrugli Business School. Currently, Atso is a PhD researcher at University of Dubrovnik in digital economy. Since 2018, he is the owner of Future HR company. Also, he is lecturing in different business schools on different HR topics. And Atso is currently visiting professor at Swiss School of Business and Management and Human Resources Management. He is the creator and researcher of the National AI Capital concept and co-founder and co-director of Global AI Ethics Institute, which is founded in Paris in 2021. And now it is the time we will listen to Aco Momčilović with a great enthusiasm. Dear Aco, the floor is yours. Izvolite.
Thank you, Hilal, and thank you, Zafer, for kind words and for the brief introduction about the situation in Turkey. I'm really happy to get more information about it, and I'm glad that situation is developing in a positive way. Let me just check if I can share my screen. I think I don't have the permission so far, so if only you can check that. Oh, and by the way, just to say regarding your promotional video, I really like the music in the background. I don't know who chose it, but I kind of Shazammed it, so I can search it now and download it myself.
We can share with you at the end. Pınar'cığım, can you make Mr. Aco co-host? Ekran paylaşımı için.
Tamam.
Okay, they are.
Yeah. So can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Great. So thank you for inviting me again. It's really a pleasure to be part of this group second time and to share some information that I've been working on. So yes, probably I will repeat some of the things in a shorter form that I was discussing last time. But the general idea is to discuss with you and to hear your opinion about the underdevelopment of AI in some countries, but on the other hand, opportunities that I call them small countries maybe have. And when I say the small countries, it's not the geographical size and not even the population. Definitely Turkey would be considered with good reasons a big country, and definitely 20 times bigger than Croatia. But small countries in the sense that I define them as every country except those 9 or 10 countries that are developing AI significantly and at the moment. So basically maybe how to aim to get close to them. So again, I will start with some of the differences, and I chose a little bit different style and methodology here. But if we are speaking about the global differences between the countries, we can measure many factors, of course. And some are small, some are like 5%, 10%, 20%. But for example, if you choose the human capital, one of my favorite topics, and if we take one measure of it, so only the global learning data, the difference here between the best countries and the worst countries is ×2. So basically it's 100% more, which is interesting to monitor. And there are, of course, other measurements of human capital. Then again, if we are speaking about the GDP, so economic measurements, the level of difference is getting higher, right? So it's not even 100%, it's not 200%, it's 10 times. And again, of course, I must warn everybody here, I'm sure that you are aware that depending on the methodologies, those numbers can be even higher and even bigger. So then the question for me was, what difference could artificial intelligence bring, right? And this is something that is not that easy to answer at the moment. So what do we know at the moment, and what we can monitor is, for example, something like this. You have one very nice slide that is explaining in a very simplified way the race for AI leadership, right? So if you're monitoring the global AI startups, and I'm going to monitor the unicorns specifically on my next slides, you can basically see 2, 3, maybe 4 bigger circles. So it's United States, then it's China, it's Europe, and yeah, Israel as a separate country. Obviously, a lot of countries are unfortunately not on that map, which, well, in my opinion, is not a good thing, and you will see later why. Then again, we can monitor the national strategies and action plans that some companies have, right? And I'm really glad to hear that Turkey is a new country that is devising and hopefully implementing the AI strategy. Because, for example, I think that Croatia created some kind of document, right? And we are kind of very often doing exactly that. We are doing something on the paper, so we kind of have the requirements fulfilled, but after that not much happens, unfortunately. So then again, there are countries who are doing something actively, and of course you can see all of those who are unfortunately lagging behind with the unpredictable consequences, I'm afraid. Then this is one slide from my research that I did 2 years ago with the experts from all around the world. I had a survey with more than 200 experts from 56 countries. And I'm putting this slide only because of this information, which is actually very deep, a question with a lot of things to discuss later. But what they were predicting is that basically AI is going to be led by the private companies and corporations. There is certain trust in startups, and it is hard to say at the moment if this trust is justified or not, but definitely positive expectations. On the third place, but then significantly falling behind, are universities, academia, something that was the cornerstone for many technologies so far. And interestingly, government institutions on the fourth place. And this fact separately is very interesting one, because it is giving us a framework of what the corporations are going to be focused on and what AI development is going to be focused on. So probably not that long-term plans. Probably is going to be 3 to 4 years return of investment as a main criteria to decide what is going to be developed or not. And this is something that is, I think, already visible so far. And in the meantime, I was, of course, searching for the similar articles, and you can see from MIT Technology Review, they're getting to the same conclusions and having same concerns. So basically, artificial intelligence is creating a new colonial world order, right? And they are having a series of articles on that topic. So the stories reveal how AI is empowering the communities and countries that don't have a say in its development. And ethics is a separate part of that story. The same communities and countries already impoverished by former colonial empires. So we will see if AI is going to kind of widen the gap or to help us to bridge that gap between the countries. Is impact of AI repeating the patterns of a colonial history? That is the question. But something that we can partially already see is that the AI industry does not, as it's written here, seek to capture land as the conquistadors of the Caribbean or Latin America did. But the same desire for profit drives it to expand its reach. So the more users a company can acquire for its products, the more subjects it can have for its algorithms, the more resources, data basically, it can harvest from their activities, their movements, and even their bodies. So I was just a few days back in one data science conference discussing exactly that. What can we do and how can we share the data as a countries, as institutions, kind of to benchmark ourselves against the global corporations who are having information from billions, hundreds of millions at least of people. And just one small piece of data for every country to consider and to see yourself where you're at. So basically, you're either using the data, doing something with it, creating algorithms, or you're labeling it. So by mid-2018, estimation of 100,000 Venezuelans that registered for data labeling jobs. This is, of course, kind of the, let's say, economic consequence of their situation, and they could be, let's say, kind of exploited for those jobs. Unfortunately, they're not using their data, they're just working for the others. And then the question is this going to happen to some other countries, or what countries this is going to happen? Also, we have a Africa warning, right? So while traditional colonialism is driven by political and government forces, algorithmic colonialism, it is, I guess, a new term, is driven by corporate agendas. And you can connect it with my previous slide about corporations developing AI. While the former used brute force domination, colonialism in the age of AI takes the form of state-of-the-art algorithms and AI-driven solutions to social problems. Not only is Western developed AI unfit for African problems, and again, then from the ethical perspective, but West's algorithmic invasion simultaneously impoverishes development of local products, also leaving the continent dependent on the Western software and infrastructure. So this is something that I was thinking about, hypothesizing about, and I was glad to see that basically a few other companies like MIT institutions, or later you will see McKinsey, are basically thinking in the same way. So last time we discussed a few questions, only a few of which I'm going to repeat, but in shorter version, few of them. What are the questions that we could ask our country leaders? And I hope that you were, at least in some capacity, participating in the creation of a Turkish AI strategy, that somebody invited you on the table while they were devising it. It was not the best case how it happened in Croatia. But basically, what is your talent growth, specifically speaking about artificial intelligence? And what I noticed here, which I'm very glad. So for example, you have Brazil and India that are basically tripled their talent in the last 5 years. But what is great to see, specifically, for example, in India, that 30% of their scientific paper include women as authors, right? So when I'm looking at this group of people, I'm extremely happy to see that you have, well, at least from my standpoint, a lot of females here. And this is extremely important. I cannot stress enough, and I'm in Croatia included in many initiatives that are kind of helping and boosting women in business and women in science. And really this topic is also very dear to me, and I discussed it on many roundtables from evolutionary, psychological perspective and many other perspectives. So I mean, congratulations to all of you who are here and to all females who are involved in the AI or any kind of tech research or companies. Then again, connected question, are you publishing scientific papers? And the good practice is here the Chinese Academy of Sciences, who is now leading the way. And 30 years back, they really literally had like zero research. So they did enormous advancements. Obviously, this is possible. Others on the list are basically the usual culprits, right? You're going to see the Harvard, the Stanford, the MIT, UCLA, Oxford, Cambridge, and stuff like that. It would be good to see any kind of university that is not either Chinese or UK, United States university there. So whatever could help that, I'm interested to join. Another question was securing of government funding, and we've seen some good examples, and we've seen some bad examples. For example, Netherlands was not doing that good job in it. They were kind of making lower investments. The other Q is the unicorn potential. So we've seen in the previous slide that the number of startups, but of course 90% of startups probably are not going to survive. Maybe 1% of them will have the chance to become a unicorn, but those who do it in the AI area probably are going to have even much bigger valuation than $1 billion. The situation currently is the following. So basically we have United States that is outperforming by far every other country, then following the China, United Kingdom, and Israel, who is really again doing obviously a good job with limited resources. And yeah, I'm guessing that is the good phrase. So the Q, the question of them all is how much time do we have? I don't know if we have Star Trek fan here who are going to recognize the new Q person from the Picard, but basically how much time do we have? And Ray Kurzweil had his prediction of 2042 before we enter the singularity. In one research that I found, they said that transformative AI is probably going to come around 2052. But for us, I mean, this is a relatively long period of time, but the transformation and a lot of things are going to happen in the meantime. So some of us are going to be active contributors and then the benefactors. And unfortunately, most of us, and when I say us, I think the countries on Earth are unfortunately not going to be where they should be. How many people, how many institutions are dealing with the responsible AI, open AI, AI for humanity, centric AI? Growing number, I would say. I'm involved in two institutions, the Global AI Ethics Institute, which is discussing the multicultural aspects of ethics in artificial intelligence, and also Alliance for Responsible AI, where we are with 3 other organizations joined also to kind of boost that agenda. Currently, this is one information for you or for your friends or partners or the people that you know. Be free to share it. It was officially closed on the 15th, but probably it's going to last for additional 7 or 10 days. We are now in the process of Top of AI Application Awards. And this is for the mature companies who have the products that they can register there and enter the competition. We did 6 months ago, I think, the Top of AI Startups, also based on our methodology. So also nice way to boost some teams and companies that are doing a good job. So obviously, artificial intelligence is also a geostrategical and political question. I will not go too deep into this very important area, but just to mention a few things and recommendations. I mean, it is very good to get in artificial intelligence and tech development, and why? There are many reasons. Some of them are here. Artificial intelligence is a matter of national security. It is very good PR. All breakthroughs are major public relation victories on the world stage, and AI development will yield numerous unrelated innovations to the benefiting society, to benefit society. So I put here one screenshot of something that is partially, I would say, AI connected. We don't have the full information now, but for example, with the current tragical war between Ukraine and Russia, this was interesting to find. So basically, Ukrainians created something like Uber for their artillery, right? So it is kind of distributed. They don't have the usual tactical groups of their artillery. They are kind of dispersed, and they are getting information about the location of the Russian troops from different sources, combining them all together, sending it in one software that they obviously created, and having much better results than in the current agenda. So basically, I think that, and this is one very interesting thread on Twitter, they came from the time of reaction of our artillery from 20 minutes up to it is, I think, in some cases to 30 seconds, which is incredible. So you can imagine how only few things like this could change significantly outcomes of many wars that might happen, or deter or prevent some wars that are probably potentially could happen. Yeah. So the conclusion from McKinsey that was also very interesting and confirming what I was suspecting is that late adopters in the artificial intelligence might find it difficult to generate impact from it, because front runners have already captured AI opportunities and late adopters lagging developing capabilities and attracting talent, right? So this is the key question, the key issue that that I'm trying to solve with different institutions, with different friends and different researchers. The kind of my conclusion of that part is that we have now a Sputnik moment, right? So AI technology is waiting for its Sputnik moment. So there is a clear comparison between the space race in the 60s and the present day surge in the national AI development. So the question is, who's going to be first, and what are going to be the consequences for all the others, right? Because the country, or the few countries who succeed, their citizens are going to have enormous benefits potentially, but their rivals are going to have significant disadvantages. So then again, to connect it with a few slides back, what I said, it is a geopolitical question, very, very serious one on one side, but on the other side, I think that 150 countries are kind of completely blind about it. So what can we do, right? What can a country like Croatia do, but what can 70–80% of European countries do, or 90% of countries around the world? Maybe one recommendation to be one possibility would be to find a smart specialization. But the question is where to focus, right? So if you're going to decide about your strategy, are you going to take the projects that are going to compete with Facebook, with Amazon, with Apple? I'm not sure, right? Nobody has unlimited resources, and those that we have, we must make most out of them. So there are two possibilities out of many that probably are existing, but that I was kind of exploring in the recent months. So I can mention and describe them a little bit more details. So it's basically the tourism and its health. So you can ask yourself why those two. So this is first part of the answer. So if we are looking at the level of digitization of the sectors, you can see that those two are having a big base, right? So healthcare is third from the bottom, and travel and tourism is also very underdeveloped, right? If we are looking sectors leading in AI adoption today, but those who are again predict to get more funding, again, travel and tourism is clearly lagging behind. Healthcare is somewhere in the middle, but also I'm not going to speak about it today, but very interesting topic and area is education, right? Something that is not organized on the level of 3 to 4 or 5 years, and you cannot measure, and you should not measure the short-term financial impact of it, but you can measure, and it is very important to have the long-term impact on society. So this is a separate measure. I'm not going to discuss it today, but just remember where the education is. So it's kind of falling behind and receiving low levels of investments, and this is something that my research also confirmed. And then when you combine those two data with this one, you will probably get the answer. So basically, what is the potential value from AI over the other techniques? So the travel is the first one. Very interesting, right? So it is kind of underdeveloped, but with a great potential. And also cross-sector potential, again, very interesting research. If you're checking what sectors are having the potential to create value across different sectors, then again you have healthcare systems and services and travel on a very good positions, right? So this is something that when I was considering the Croatian situation, I said, okay, this makes sense because we are reasonably good in some of the healthcare product services companies that we're having, and definitely Croatia economy is unfortunately over depending on the tourism, right? As far as I know, the Turkey also has a very good tourist industry. So I was thinking, yeah, it would be interesting to mention those two. So we can have different applications of artificial intelligence, and researchers are showing that to us. So for example, personalized services, virtual assistants, chatbots, and I'm going to show you a few examples. Back office automation for many hotels, post-trip loyalty sentiment analysis, operations management, hotel staff assistance, lodging services, and many others. What the scientific research concluded? Well, they made kind of 3 clusters of development of AI or potential development of AI in the tourism. So it is hospitality and gastronomy, it is destination management, and interestingly, airports, theme parks, and other what they call. So some startups could probably aim some of the problems and some of the opportunities in those specialized areas to make a progress. And maybe to mention a few examples, so AI could make transportation more organized, leading to fewer accidents or traffic jams. This was one of the possibilities in the tourism. Another example would be as tourism sites where crowds could be managed more effectively, so leading to less overcrowded sites and attractions in general. So definitely all of those big cities who are having a lot of tourists visiting them, and I know that Istanbul is one of them because I visited it. They're probably having, during the season at least, problems with overcrowded sites. Again, it's not that it's nothing happening in tourism. We have chatbots already used by Booking, by Skyscanner, and by Expedia. They are developing them on a monthly basis, basically, and many others are going to join sooner or later. We have Airbnb that is using machine learning already, also interesting practice. We have many startups, and of course, I'm not even sure if those startups are going to be here in 12 months or in 2 years, but their idea is definitely very valid. So Travel Stop is simplifying business travel, speeding up booking process, automating expenses reporting, and providing cost-saving insights using artificial intelligence. This one is creating this real-time crowd monitoring for attraction and events. So those things that were kind of recognized from the researchers really now are somebody in the business, some startups, some investors are kind of trying to solve those problems. Also, there are some big players that are doing at least something. So you have robots and robot-like systems. So basically, Hilton created Connie, but also there was a plan in Heathrow in 2020 to create AI-powered bot on the airport. This was also, I think, in many media because it's kind of a popular example. Henna Hotel in Japan, basically staffed only by robots, right? So there were no humans working in it. Definitely good PR stunt, if nothing else. But we are going to see how this develops. I can see the trend that is moving into that direction with, again, very interesting consequences on the workforce. SITA, also intelligent tracking, so they're connected with the airports. So I'm traveling to Skopje tomorrow, so I will probably have this papery thing attached to my baggage, but they're actually giving the solutions where you can basically track it with just a visual recognition, with image recognition based on artificial intelligence. Very sophisticated, at least it seems that way from what they're presenting. And then, of course, hyper-local tourism, creation of the content, which is also happening in small areas around the world. So tourism is doing something, but I think that the potential is even bigger, and I'm sure that it is much bigger than what we are having at the moment. The second area that I was also kind of involved in the recent months is health, right? So I mean, obviously there is no surprise if we just pick one disease and check numbers connected to the potential improvements, we would get to the billions of something, right? And I did check, and I did choose one disease and kind of worked on it a little bit. So in general, we can have a lot of benefactors in the health. So people who, of course, they are patients, right? Citizens who can have benefits in their health based on AI. You can have the healthcare providers, but also insurers and regulators. Well, how exactly? There is AI, but also a tech ecosystem that is kind of already now developing. And I found one good example. So we are having wearable sensors and devices, right, who are gathering our data. We have smartphones and applications who are in real time kind of processing them, e-health records and data mining. This is, I think, the gold mine here. Telemedicine and online communities and social media. This was, for example, part that I was not aware of. And then I found when I was researching it for one conference, that this is also one very important part of the future AI tech-based health improvements, right? Communities that are directly helping each other without necessarily without involvement of doctors. So the disease that I was kind of trying to crunch the numbers is diabetes, right? So I can go in much bigger length, but this is just the raw numbers, like hundreds of millions of people who are having diabetes, millions of people who are dying, and the number is growing, which is again quite scary. So what can AI do? Well, I found that code that it has already done a lot of things. So AI made quantitative change in fighting with diabetes. It can assist in a different parts. So it can help us to do the prevention, to organize our lives better, to kind of to avoid diabetes in those people who are genetically or in any other way prone to have it. We can do better detection, and we can do better management of the disease. So all of those are, I would say, equally important. And then again, I was surprised to see that, for example, 10% of all health related costs are connected directly with diabetes, just with one very serious and obviously very common disease. So what can AI do also? It can detect patterns of behavior of people who are getting diabetes. It can make early diagnosis. Probably if you're not working in the health industry, you're not aware that there is a significant percentage of people, of adults, and it's like ranging from 30 to even 50% of people who are having diabetes that are undiagnosed, right? So the numbers that I found in research were kind of, I mean, incredible. You know, if I would read them in the local newspapers, I would think that it is some kind of mistake. But I was speaking with the doctors specialized in that, and they confirmed to me. And then, of course, to create personalized recommendations how to treat it and how to behave. Also, one data point that I can share with you is that, and it was really surprising for me, after you diagnose people with diabetes and you tell them what to do, you know, for their health, for their lives, at least 30% of patients is not going to do it. They're going to completely ignore it. So then, of course, the costs that are getting occurred later are enormous. So there is a whole psychological story behind this diabetes story, but not to go too deep into that. So what is already happening? So maybe also some of you know about it. So Abbott is the company that created and Freestyle Libre. This is a device that you attach to your hand, and this is measuring the level of glucose in your blood, so you can put the right amount of insulin. So it is kind of very, I would say, basic at the moment. There are many ways to exploit this data more, because now in the first time ever we have opportunity to have live stream of data that is connected with our health, right? And they are doing something not that fast as I would expect, but some things are happening, and this probably is going to be very interesting in the future. So what can we do, all of us? So yeah, we can definitely organize, we can support each other, we can join similar institutions or our countries or international organizations. It is very important to act on time, and then also to make the right decisions, right? And this is something that this kind of government consulting aim is going kind of to help them to decide, to make the right decisions, to find those niches in which you're going to excel, in which you're going to be able to compete with the corporations, right? Because if you're just going to do anything, they're just going to eat us. For that reason, and this is probably the last information in this presentation, I'm in the process of creating Adria AI think tank, the group of people who is going to consider, to think about, to research all of those implication and impact on the development and economies of small and medium-sized countries. And then again, it is not geographically or even the population wise small, but those who are not front runners in AI development. Also, international relations and politics that facilitate or threaten those countries' positioning in AI world. So what can we do to position better Croatia or Turkey or any other country on the world stage? And we plan, of course, if we succeed and if we find the right funding, to use the new methods of data collection. So I think that this is it from my side. Those are my contacts, my mail, my LinkedIn profile, my Medium account, in which I'm from time to time publishing something. I'll be happy to connect with all of you. And if you have any questions or comments, I'll be glad to hear them. And I'm not sure, maybe I'll be even able to answer some of them. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Aco, for this great presentation. And I personally want to thank for what you said about female members of AIPA, because I'm one of them and we have a great member composition. And I'm glad to be a part of this family. Also, all of my friends will share. So on behalf of them, I want to thank you. Also, you have given us very valuable information, especially Turkey and Croatia are perfect at tourism sector. So they have to think about AI opportunities, definitely. I know it quite well because I have a paper on tourism in Turkey and Croatia written with Croatian professor of mine, me, and one Croatian friend. So we should definitely think about tourism and healthcare in both countries. Before moving to questions, Zafer has few words to say, so I want to give floor to him. Zafer?
Thank you, Hilal. Dear Mr. Atso, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation and for taking your time for us. We all listened to you with a great excitement. If you escape, we donated a science kit to our yurt in Turkey on behalf of you as a memory of today. We would like to host you in Turkey as soon as possible with great pleasure. Thank you. Hilal, gösterirseniz hediyeyi. Pınar mı gösteriyor?
Pınar.
Evet.
So this is the science kit that AIPA gave as a
very
gift
nice.
on behalf of you. Thank you for coming today.
Yes.
And on chat, there is one question. Mr. Mehmet Şahin. Mehmet Bey, siz mi sormak istersiniz? Ben okuyayım mı?
Hilal, istersen herkes kendisi sorabilir istiyorsa.
Okay. Mehmet Şahin.
Before answering it, just to thank Zafer one more time for your kind words. If there will be opportunity in the future to join you in person in Turkey, I will definitely see if my agenda will allow me. But if it will, I'll be happy to come there and to meet all of you in person.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yes, I can see the question here in chat, right? So what are your thoughts about government-size AI projects? Can you inform us about its samples which are already working on or the visions of the future, the projects from government and company side? Well, unfortunately, I don't have too much data from Croatia, or I mean, even worse, I do have the data. The government size projects are not happening, at least in Croatia. On the world stage, I'm not following it that closely, but unfortunately, those sources that I'm following, I didn't find too many of those. So basically, companies are just now finished creating their strategies, and they're more into creating some kind of regulatory bodies or maybe kind of investment funds that are then going to be transferred into different projects, but then privately owned projects very often. I think that yesterday I read that the Netherlands has one separate fund that they created, and they said, okay, this is going to be spent on the artificial intelligence, but the whole value chain, right? From the academia, from the education, to the startups, to the ecosystem and stuff like that. So it is a very good reaction. This is like news, maybe not even 1 week long. This is going to be very interesting discussion with, I think, enormous consequences, because take under consideration the following fact, basically. If you look at the 20th century and the main technologies that were created there, all of them, almost, as far as I know, all of the fundamental technologies were created from the government funding, right? Because it was coming from that space race between the United States and Russia, but it was funded, and the NASA, it was funded by the government. So they did the fundamental research, and then it kind of transferred into the private sector, and then all of the others following were kind of invented. But unfortunately, now we don't have that. So it is now the fundamental research in some areas is going to be researched and developed by the corporations, and some areas are going to be completely neglected, right? And this is going to be something with unpredictable consequences. The education is one part that I mentioned, but there are of course many other parts.
Thank you. We have a question from Nazif Kutay Erdan.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, dear Atso. It isn't a question, but I want to say something. AI is a huge power who has this.
Oh, yeah, Nazif, you muted yourself probably by accident. Okay, now it's working. Now it's working. Okay.
Okay.
We can hear you now.
Again. Hello again. AI is a huge power. Who has this power? The string will be in his hand. Healthy labor, sports, management, and etc. That's why all countries must focus on AI, because the future is in AI, I think. We heard this today one more. It isn't a question, but I want to say thank you, your good presentation. It was wonderful for me, and I learned a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Nazif, for the positive feedback. It is always welcomed. I think that definitely, at least in this first phase, before we get to this transformative AI, and this is of course still a big question. We don't know if it's going to happen or when. I mean, many philosophers are questioning it with good reasons. But what we know is that in the next 5 or 10 years, we are going to use AI as a tool, right? So basically, on a lot of conferences, the usual question is artificial intelligence going to replace humans, right? Because there is that fear that we are going to lose the jobs. So what we are certain now is that, and this is my answer, no, AI will not replace humans, but humans who are using AI as their tools in their job will replace humans. Right.
Yes.
So you will either learn how to use it, AI, and get more technically savvy, or you're just going to be replaced.
Yeah, thank you. It was wonderful.
On chat, we have another question from
I've seen it. What do you think about algorithm biased problem? Well, I think that algorithmic bias is even until now, it is well-researched problem, at least, so we are aware of it. So definitely there are many companies and many professionals working on that. Yeah, we have many examples that we feed certain amount of data in some machine learning systems or some frameworks, and they give us the results which are biased because, like trash in, trash out. And we are trying to be careful about it. It is probably unavoidable. But what is the interesting spin there? Because probably all of you read, at least everybody here, like 5 articles about the bias. What was interesting for me to hear how we are kind of shooting in our legs in solving that problem, at least we in Europe, with a different regulation. So for example, I was speaking with one consultant from Netherlands, and he is a data scientist working for KPMG, and he told me, look, I cannot even solve the bias. Why? Because first they anonymize our data. So in order to get data, we cannot get information about, for example, gender, right? So we don't know if it is male or female. So then we process the data and something comes out. So then when we apply it, we can see, oh, but okay, it is treating women differently. So, can you stop it? And they're like, no, we can't, because we didn't know it, because you didn't give us the data to compensate for this factor of gender. So this is kind of very interesting, going back and forth. So on one side, we want to solve it, but on the other hand, we are not giving and not feeding the systems with proper data. So it's going to be very funny to see how they're going to solve this problem.
Yes, thank you, Aco. Actually, you are right. All the important things is data. If we have relevant data, enough data, so I think there will be a solution for bias problem. But to create the algorithm is easy to be biased, of course, as you know. I think this is a big challenge to solve in AI age, to be unbiased system. And also, sorry, you want to say something?
No, please finish.
And also there is another question. Maybe we should also focus on AI can AI deepen the inequalities or solving inequalities problem in society? So this is also very big challenging question. What do you think about that?
This is exactly what I wanted to stress out. This is the question that kind of is driving me, and I don't know. This is the problem. I mean, I cannot even predict because I don't know what will happen. But I agree with you that it can go both ways, right? It can make the differences bigger or make them smaller, right? And regarding the what you said, the bias, yeah, algorithms are, let's say, reasonably simple to create, right? We have smart engineers who are going to crack the problem. But then to get back to my involvement in the Global AI Ethics Institute, and especially on that topic, I can recommend my partner Emmanuel Goffi, who is the ethics philosopher. The problem is, what is bias? What do you consider bias? Are we considering the same thing bias? So there are significant differences, right? The problem is at the moment that basically 80% probably of the algorithms which we are developing are having one definition of bias, and this is Western culture ethics, right? And they are based on Immanuel Kant's ethic. And what we are not aware that, and again, to call back on the research, there is a research who is showing us that we have on the world level 180 standards of behavior, norms, ethical standards that we could take under consideration, right? From Australia, Africa, Christian countries, Orthodox countries, Muslim countries, and there are like many differences. So when somebody in the Western country says, okay, we are aware of bias and we are going to solve it, we can be sure that, yeah, it probably is not the same bias that others are perceiving, right? And their solution is, again, Western centric. You know, others are not even invited to the table for discussion. So I have a wonderful friend and member of the institute from South African Republic, right? And her stories are amazing. Like, you know, we are so far away from even considering all the options because we are kind of focused on this technical part. Let's develop an algorithm, right? And what we are talking about is the trolley problem, right? And it's kind of a joke now. Are we going to go here or there? Yeah. And this is the level of ethics and the bias that we are considering at the moment. But the question is much deeper, right? And I am not even close to the level of knowledge to really give a valuable comment on that topic. I kind of feel as a beginner, right?
Yes, thank you, Aco. Thank you very much for your speech and questions answers. Thank you very much.
And Abdulkadir Hocam is raising his hand.
Yeah. Hello. First of all, thank you for your presentation. I am board member of AIPA, and I have two private schools in Turkey, K-12 schools. I work in education sector. As you mentioned in your presentation, education is not very developed in AI. I wonder that what do you think is the reason of that? Why is not developed very much? Also, are there any initiatives or startups or think tank societies that you recommend me to follow them or to search them? I wondered that. Thank you.
Okay, for the last part, the two that I mentioned, be free to follow them. So it's Alliance for Responsible AI and Global AI Ethics Institute. Yeah. There is, I think it's called Swiss Cognitive also that are doing the good job, MKAI, and the Montreal Institute of Ethics. So all of them are, I would say, globally recognized. Probably there are many more. So as for the education part, this topic is very dear to me. I stumbled upon it. I mean, of course, I am in that area myself in many ways, but I was preparing a presentation about it. Maybe it was 2-3 years back, and then I researched it more. And then I I kind of became aware that yes, on one hand, and it is still confirmed, we are not investing too much into education, which is no problem per se. The problem is that the education is probably one of 2 or 3 most important sectors in which we should invest, right? So it's crazy.
Yes.
So then the numbers on the global level, can you just imagine, like we have 400 million children that don't have the basics of writing skills and mathematics, right? Can you comprehend that on the global level? So I mean, the small advancements could be crucial, right? Why we are not investing? I think that part of the answer is something that I mentioned. First of all, in many countries, education is something that is government connected. So governments are poor and investing in many other things. And for example, in Croatia, blatantly stealing money to distribute between politicians, right? So I mean, there's no surprise there. And there is no quick wins, right? You cannot earn money fast in education. So educational problems, they're kind of long term. This is something that you're planning and executing on, like, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years at least. So how are you going to force the corporation in which you have a CEO that is thinking about his, like, I don't know, 4-year term to invest in something that is going to come 10 years after him? This is it. Like if we are just looking from the profit, short-term profit orientation, this is not a good choice. Education is just like, it's like 10th choice, right? So you have like marketing, you have finance, you have military, you have health, okay, but not education. But on the long term, it's tragical.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Zafer is raising his hand.
Thank you, Hilal. I will ask an easy questions. Dear Atso, I have a classic questions that I usually ask speakers. I want to ask you too. If you were the top person in artificial intelligence in the world or a minister in your country, what would you do first?
It's a tough one. One of the things probably is that I would form a global AI governance body, right? So we have somebody who will have oversight on all of the things that are happening in artificial intelligence, right? Because there are many ethical questions, political questions, and many differences. So we don't know, and I was speaking, and even we were trying to write an article about it unsuccessfully, unfortunately. What is the future of AI governance, right? On the world level, what's going to happen? Nobody knows, you know, and it's kind of important, right? So the second thing probably would be to involve as many players as we can and to raise the awareness that, and this is the quote that I heard on one conference, and they said in the context of artificial intelligence, if we don't act now, we don't have the future, right? So if you don't act now, you don't have the future, you know. What are we going to do? Then sit on the table and then let's make this kind of specialization in what is your country good in? What do you have data for? What are you going to do better than we? Okay, you do it. We are probably better in some small niche and something else. We are going to do that, you know, and then kind of make it more democratic around the world, right? So not to be dependent, because now we are heading into a direction that we are kind of probably dependent on the, I don't know, 5 corporations. All of us are in the governments and the countries. We are going to buy their software, their algorithms and stuff. It'll be completely in their hands with unpredictable consequences. I mean, that doesn't sound too good to me.
Thank you.
And Onur Bey has a question, I guess.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank you very much for informative presentation of you. So I'd like to ask a question that I think is most difficult and most difficult issue, most complex issue is the ethics of AI, right? So the ethical principles you are working on right now are considered correct according to whom, according to which culture, which systems. So how do you design it? I still don't get it. I still don't understand the ethics. So I have read a lot of articles about ethics of AI, but I still don't get it, which system, which country, which culture, which principles.
Well, then you and I, we are the same. I also don't get it. So the thing is that, and we had the one webinar under exactly that that topic, like, is there a universal code of ethics? And there is no universal code of ethics. This is the answer. There is no universal code of ethics. We will need, and I mean, it would be easy, right? If we can write one book, distribute it around the globe, and that's it. Unfortunately, it is impossible. So then we can recognize and respect the differences.
Right.
The interesting part about the ethics, and I would completely agree with you, is that it is extremely important, but only until a point when it is completely irrelevant. So this is interesting. So yes, we are going to consider it. We are going to think about it. Hopefully, we are going to work on it in many countries and many different institutions. Until, and this is then again hypothesis for discussion, until, for example, China doesn't create one military system and product that is kind of completely ethics free, but very efficient and can kill everybody else. In that moment, all of the other actors could choose, are we going then to think about ethics of our products and risk what is going to happen, or are we just going to do the same?
Right.
And then we will see, I mean, I'm not even sure, should we then consider ethics, right? Or are we just going to save our asses? So then it is very important until it might happen. I'm not sure who is going to succeed or not, or even if this is possible. But what is going to happen if somebody gets enormous advantage and it's going exponentially, right?
Right.
So somebody could make this Sputnik moment that step first, to go into the space first. And then we are going to see what happens and what is important and what is not.
Right. The biggest issue is on the corner, I think. So it's coming. It's still MIT ethics working group couldn't find out to real ethics. It's on the corner. It's coming, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Melody has a question in chat. Then we will move to Gülbenbe Hanım and Mehtap Hanım, and then we will take a photo and finish the session.
Do you have any thoughts on the decentralized world crowdfunding AI? In this case, I believe government and private companies could be discarded. I'm curious if there are any thoughts on this. Wow, this is one very interesting question. I was briefly mentioning it in this discussion on the data science conference. I believe that crowdfunding and crowdsourcing could be very interesting solutions. I cannot be sure. I'm not expert, obviously, in that area, but it sounds like a good solution which can kind of bridge some of those obstacles that we're having, right? And this kind of reminds me that we will see, like the blockchain, right, and the cryptocurrencies. They're fantastic idea, right? So a lot theoretically can happen with that, and I hope still that will. And I'm working on some crypto projects, right? But if it's going to succeed or not, I'm not sure. The resistance is very strong. So decentralization is probably again focusing on the people, on the number of people that are involved, right? So you still need to have the people all around the world. You need to have the numbers that are educated, that are aware of all of those things. And then if you connect them in a decentralized way, the results could be fantastic. But do we have the requirements to do it? That I don't know. I'm not sure about that part, but as an idea, it sounds very interesting for me.
Thank you so much, Aco. Just to comment on Mr. Onur's question as well, like the not having a harmonious universal code right now is the same problem we're struggling with in the legal community as well, especially in the case of, decentralization, where, there are decentralized autonomous organizations, which we call DAOs, which, who is actually responsible? We don't know how to, make them responsible. So in this case, if, for instance, the Bored Ape Yacht Club suddenly wanted to fund an AI military project, who would do anything about that? It's just food for thought. Of course, it's a fantasy, but it could happen. We never know. So I thought it would be an interesting question for all of us to think about. And nice to see you again, by the way.
Yes, the co-founder in Adria AI think tank, she's a lawyer, right? So yeah, we were also kind of discussing it because it's complete mess. The laws and the law faculties, they are like very rigid, very slow moving, kind of like the Roman laws are still taught in, in universities, and like the technology is really crushing them, and they don't know how to behave and how to react, how to adapt all of those laws. So I mean, in 3 weeks, I think I'm moderating a panel on exactly that topic, like justice for AI. How can we regulate it, and how should we regulate it?
Okay, Gülben Hanım.
Thank you so much. First one, thank you so much for your invitation, Mr. Zafer, and nice to see you, Mr. Aco. And my question is that, do you think that the law system can have the AI laws in any country? Because my name is Gülben Megez. I am the founder and CEO. And now we are combining the law and AI. So really we research the AI systems effects on law. Do you think that this is necessary for us?
It's a hard question. I'm not sure really to answer. I think that, I mean, in the short term, I mean, look at what European Union did. They kind of created some kind of regulation, at least something that is going to assess the risk of AI companies. So yes, the organizational reaction to the AI is to put it under some kind of structure, some kind of laws, which is going to help us to understand it. But on the other hand, it could be important because people are going to have more trust in it, right? In the short term. But in the long term, what is going to happen? I mean, this is like the very dynamic, adaptive system, right? Nobody can predict. I'm not sure what is going to be the relationship and the intercourse between the artificial intelligence and the laws and some other things, because nobody knows. Because for the starters, we don't know, and we're not that good in predicting the AI development. So on one side, we had fantastic new discoveries, but on the other hand, some are already calling AI winter, right? So we got our hopes up, it's going to go exponentially, blah blah blah. Still, there are good arguments from people who are just saying it. Look, but those are just like improved statistics. We are just using the good algorithms. It's not something that we imagined as like a general artificial intelligence, something that can observe, process, and combine data itself. We are quantum leaps behind that. So it's hard to say, but I was surprised to see, and then glad maybe in a certain way, that there are a lot of lawyers, especially in Croatia, that are kind of trying to talk about this issue and this relationship, right? And no, we don't have any smart answers at the moment, unfortunately.
Thank you. You know that AI systems involves a different discipline, machine learning, data science, all these involves the AI system. So this is very important because AI system in the future affects all the kind of section of the country, economy, politics, the other. So laws actually will affect all these like the sections. So the laws and AI, these are so important in here. So we have to do something, I think. I say this.
Now you just reminded me. So there are different types of laws that we are speaking about. Sometimes we are just speaking about laws that are going to regulate some parts of artificial intelligence, right? But there are some laws that are AI connected, which are not product connected, right? So then we can make this kind of sandbox for the development of artificial intelligence. This is the law, and this is some kind of organizational and government approach. So our government theoretically could vote and create 2 or 3 new laws that is going to boost the community of artificial intelligence, people to work easier, to get higher number, to get more funding, to get tax deduction stuff. So there is a number of laws that are definitely going to influence the future development of AI that could be created. In this part, I absolutely agree.
Thank you so much.
And Mehtap Hanım, your question, please.
If it is more than a comment, more a comment than a question. First of all, thank you very much for the great session. I just wanted to comment on something that Onur Bey and Aco said. I don't think that I completely agree with the view that there is no universal code of ethics for AI. Probably there isn't, but there is definitely lots of regulations, lots of standardization and certifications which are coming. And also at the end of the day, code of ethics for AI is not any different to code of ethics for other things. You just need to a bit of granularity, a bit of specialization, but there is the general governance principle, general risk management principles, and general code of ethics principles that applies to ethics. I think European Union and Europe took the lead, and they are the pioneer in that aspect. And United States will follow, but there are definitely some basic, I would say, minimum requirements for ethical AI, for a good governance AI, etc. And Onur Bey and Aco more than happy also to share emails or links to the documents offline if you want. But I just wanted to add that there are certainly, I think, some good background or base documents for code of ethics of AI and governance and risk management. Thank you for the great session and for the opportunity.
Thanks for the comment. Just to reflect shortly on one part of what you said, I know a few people that are working on those certifications. This is going to be really interesting, because it could happen that like winner takes it all. You cannot have like 20 certifications of what is, I don't know, responsible AI or human-centric AI. Many people are working on it. I'm not sure how it will end. It is interesting. We were even considering creating something like that. Yeah, but it's a tough cookie, and we will see how that goes, right? And who is going to create something meaningful, not just like the check boxes that you're just going to say yes, we have it nominally, but to have something that is making sense. I don't know. I'm not specialist in this part, the certification, but I'm following with an interest.
Thank you.
Thank you. And last question or comment from Çetin Bey. Çetin Bey. Mikrofonunuzu açar mısınız? Sorunuz var sanırım. Okay, I think he doesn't have question. Oh, okay. He sent us love, and this finishes our session. But before we go, also thank you very much for this great presentation. And dear participants, you asked great questions. We learned even more from Atso. Thank you for your time. I know that you had a tight schedule in the month of May and you made it. You came to our event. This means a lot to us. And as Zafer said, we would like to welcome you in Turkey. It will be great.
Thank you, Hilal.
And before we finish, we would like to have a family photo and
Yes.
kameraları açabilirsek.
Çekiyorum. Bir tane daha alacağım. Tamamdır. Çok teşekkür ederim.
Okay. Once again, Aco, thank you very much for your time, for your
Thank all of you.
presentation.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank all of you for the questions and the discussion. I'm sure that if we had more time, we could do it probably for hours. And yeah, I'm hoping next time also to learn a lot of information from you, because
Thank you
I'm
very
sure
much.
that there is much to learn.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you
dear
all,
Atso.
and until the next opportunity.
Thank you very much, dear Atso. We look forward to seeing you in Turkey as soon as possible. See you later.
See you later then.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.